my name is Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network and Women of Inspiration Awards. And this is our Woman Driving Change panel. I'm super excited to be with this amazing group of panelists today who I will introduce, and I'll get them to share a little bit about their background story. So first off, I'd like to introduce you to Sharlene Massie, who is the founder and visionary of About Staffing. Welcome, Sharlene. Next up is Kendra Scurfield, Director of Brand Communications for Banff Sunshine Village in Alberta. Also, Colea Carrington, who is the CEO of Absolute Combustion International and the Executive Director of the Canadian Blockchain Consortium. Again, I almost did that word right. And Rose Marie Gage. Rose is the founder and principal of Great Governance Matters and MPOWRU. And Rose, that's just a little bit about everything that you do. So when you share your story, I'll get you to share with all of our listeners and our viewers about all the roles that you play on the board positions. So welcome, ladies. I'm looking forward to a great panel, a very diverse panel, and the wealth of knowledge that you're here to share today. So Rose, maybe we'll start with you up at the top, just a little bit of a background for our listeners today.
So I have a very eclectic career and eclectic current career. So right now I have a personal business that I run as founder of Great Governance Matters and MPOWRU. MPOWRU is really focused on the individual entrepreneur and helping them to vision their future and helping them to really step forward with their business. And Great Governance Matters is really looking at any board circumstance and helping boards to be more effective and limiting dysfunction. So that's about 30% of my current role. The other time I spend, the other 70% I spend as a board director. So I sit on the board of HEXO, which is a cannabis consumer product goods company in Canada. And it's very dynamic because it's an ever-evolving space. And we've just gone through several acquisitions. I also sit on a clean tech organization called CO2 Grow, and it is really focused on agriculture and really changing the nature of how we grow products, specifically large leafy green products, and also reducing carbon footprint. And likewise, I also sit on Link Energy, which is a retail energy provider here in Alberta. And similarly, I sit on the Agricultural Research Institute of Ontario, which is really ag research by the province and looking and seeing where we can commercialize and do more with agriculture. And lastly, I sit as the chair of Ontario Agri-Food Technologies. And so really, I am, in all cases, I'm either chair of a committee of environmental, social, or governance, or vice chair or chair. And it's been really dynamic. And I find that it's used everything that I've learned in my past. So thank you.
Wonderful, and I look forward to really diving in. There's so many opportunities where women can learn from your career path and how they can help navigate to, get to, have the opportunity to sit on the boards, contribute their expertise. So I'm looking forward to your expertise shared in this panel. Thank you. Sharlene, I'd like to introduce you now. I know that you're celebrating your 25th anniversary. So congratulations on that milestone this year for About Staffing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Yes, I started About Staffing in 1996, and we started as an office placement service, temporary and direct hire. And then in 2012, I opened About Staffing Industrial and started to fill the industrial side, both temporary and direct hire. And so that's kind of a fun morphing. And then this year, just started 2020, actually started a new platform called jobshift.com to help guide people through to employment. In their own time and in their own way and all personalized, and just took all the questions I'd been asked for the last 25 years and plunked them all in together into one spot. So it's ever morphing and lots of fun. This year is filled with celebrations. So it's a real pleasure to be here today.
Wonderful. Well, we're happy to have you here, Sharlene, and looking forward to the panel. Kendra, so welcome from the slopes of Sunshine Village.
Thank you so much. It's exciting to be here. It's been a definite interesting year since the pandemic started. I was on a plane coming home from London on March 12th when the world kind of went into shutdown, and as a ski resort, we really had to adapt quickly and change how we operated as we learned to adjust and offer our essentially stripped down service throughout the pandemic. And one of our goals over the past year was really to stay open. But as a marketer, that meant that I had to learn how to demarket and just focus on the news and what we're doing to keep our guests safe. So it was a very interesting year. And I think that we've all learned how to take change and address change throughout the past 16, 18 months.
Beautiful. And I do have to say, I think it was flawless. I think what you've managed to do was flawless. I know I dropped my son off to the ski hill a couple times over the ski season, and thank goodness that we were able to enjoy that. But flawless, and your demarketing, you did keep the engagement high in a really, uncertain area.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to us to have been able to do that and to have stayed open. But we really felt that outdoor recreation was essential to the mental health and well-being of Albertans. We need a place to get outside and enjoy the fresh mountain air.
Beautiful. And that is actually one of our topics as well for the panel, is that work-life balance and that mental wellness and health and wellness. Really, as women, we have to take care of ourselves, put on our own masks first prior to assisting others. From my flight attendant days, of course, essential. Kalia, welcome.
Thank you. Kalia Carrington. So I've been a technology entrepreneur since about 2009. I co-founded a business with my father where we design environmentally friendly combustion heating systems, and we've done it for the energy sector, recycling sector, aviation sector, and now currently in the construction sector. On top of that, I helped start an organization in partnership with a previous winner. It was called the Alberta Blockchain Consortium. We've been going for about 4 years, and we're now renamed as the Canadian Blockchain Consortium, and we are the largest not-for-profit industry organization in Canada that focuses on blockchain. Very excited. I also am a co-founder and board member of the Canadian Blockchain Association for Women, where we focus really heavily on getting women into STEM-based careers. I also vice chair the board for an organization called Elevate Aviation. I help teach at their learning academy, so young girls in high school come to my shop at the Edmonton airport, and I teach them all about how our combustion system fits within aviation and kind of encouraging young women to take that step into that career. Recently came onto the board of Alberta Women's Entrepreneurs. Very excited about that. I get appointed in September this month. And it's an amazing organization where we focus on getting women-led businesses, financial services to be able to help them grow. And on top of that, I've been a part of WEDO Canada, so as a regional ambassador for women's entrepreneurship, and helped put on the last 2 women's entrepreneurship days that have happened here. They were the first ones to happen in Canada, and we were able to get a proclamation appointing Women Entrepreneurship Day as November the 19th. There's other stuff I do as well, but definitely love being a part of any group that supports and inspires women.
Fantastic. And I want to start with, do you believe that women can have it all? I mean, each and every one of you, your portfolio and your experience is like pages and pages and pages in your resume, and you've got family, and I think this is still a very big piece for women right now, is how do we balance and juggle it all? Do you believe we can do that, Rose? I think we need to talk about
it's about prioritization, to be honest. I mean, I've been a CEO, I've been a chief marketing officer for huge corporations, Fortune 5 corporations and multi-billion-dollar pursuits, as well as for small $50 million organizations. So I've had breadth of things. I have one son. I have been divorced. And so what I have found is that's really ultra critical is, first of all, know what your priorities are. So my son and my family, in terms of my parents and my brother, have always been first and foremost. So when I looked at having to make choices, I ensured that I could have the support where I needed it. So I made sure that when I had a role that I had to travel, for example, my parents ended up living with me and or lived very close to me so that they were that safety net for me. So I was very fortunate, but I always had, the emergency list of things to do, but I always made sure that I made the time for my son to be with him. And so it was about choices. It was also about, going for 5 a.m. runs when I was younger, because I needed to clear my head. And so my parents were there. I could go for the run. I wouldn't have to worry about my son. And so it's really about, I think you can have it all if you prioritize it, but you can't have it all at the same time. I think if you think of it as a bunch of parceled entities within a box and you had fluid going from it. It's about fluidity. It's moving the fluid to where you need it to go and then readjusting it. And so obviously when the fluid moves to one area, there's going to be less of it in others. And so you need to prioritize your time. And so I haven't had it all in the sense of I haven't been able to, do certain things, but it's been a choice that I've made to focus on certain facets of my life.
Well said. Great words of wisdom. And, we always look at leaders that have been, have a huge successful career and going, how does she do it? And so it is about choices and picking and choosing what's important to you. And I'd like to talk, a little bit further on in the discussion about judgment and the imposter syndrome and all that sort of stuff. We're going to dig in there. But Sharlene, I'd love to hear about your perspective.
Well, I think I do have it all. I think it probably took me all these years to figure out that I have, what I needed. And I think, at the time, maybe when I started, I wanted more. And now that it's 25 years of my business and 3 businesses, 3 sons, 4 grandsons, a husband that, supports me for 34 years, 35 years. I think now I'm looking back and I'm thinking, boy, I did it. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And I think I never really knew that I had it all, but I actually really did. Because now I have a big life. I've always had a big life, but I feel now that I have had a very full life. I've traveled. I've built my house. I have my family close by. And, they smile when they see me. And I think now looking back, and I'm still working, I'm still doing what I want to do. I have the team that I want, and we're busy. So I can't, even though it's been hard, for sure, looking back, I think there's really nothing more I could ever want. I'm glad it worked out this way. And, you just manage things each day, one day at a time. But when you look back on it all, really those amount to an awful lot of days, an awful lot of fulfilling days. And so I feel that, there's not really anything, I don't really need anything more. I think I have everything I could ever want.
Well, they always say that it's 10 years and then all of a sudden you're this overnight success, right?
It took me 25
now it's like
years
25.
to be an overnight. I'm just there now.
Right. And I think that's really important to talk about is I have it all now, but everybody's at a different place, right? So Colia.
I definitely love what Rose had to say about priorities. For me, it's also, I take priorities and also say add belief. So the first time I got to hear Suzanne West speak, it was a Women in Leadership event. And I had just recently lost my dad. I had to take over the company by myself, get into the whole imposter syndrome after that. But it was inspirational to see a woman engineer who owned her own oil company up on stage saying, and not or. Right. And just realizing that it's like, you can be a mom and, be a woman in business. Like you can, but it is that belief. It's believing that it's an and, right? It's not like, oh, I have to choose. And many of us women, it's like, I have two sons. I have a 16-year-old boy. I have a 5-year-old boy. You know, like yourself, I've also been divorced. You know, I've had a lot of the experiences and realizing that, you know, no matter what came, I could do it. With that belief, and then again, prioritizing, making sure I put that time together for, you know, my family and my children, but also, you know, sometimes I didn't balance well. Sometimes I was like all in, working nonstop, 16-hour days, 7 days a week, barely saw my children. And there's other times where it's like, okay, we're taking the summer off and we're just going to go have fun and play, right? So I'm not great in terms of balance sometimes, but just believing that I can grow and be a part of all these businesses as well as like be a mom and a leader.
Fantastic. I love that. And it's okay to say that we're not in full balance all the time. Like, let's be authentic. Let's be real about that. As COVID has proven, the carpet can be pulled out from underneath us. Quickly. You know, Kendra, like you know, coming back in and having to revamp your whole business and the way that you interact with customers, you know, like overnight, right? So I'd love to hear your perspective, Kendra, as a new mom even, you know, now there's a whole new element to your life and your business.
There definitely is, and I'm very blessed. I grew up with a working mom. My mom was an anesthesiologist at the Banff Mineral Springs Hospital when I was a kid, and at the time I didn't realize the sacrifices that she had made for us and what she was doing to give us a better life and also to teach us about work-life balance. I remember on days, because my parents were both professionals, and sometimes when my mom was on call, she would ask me to come sleep in her bed if she had gotten called in. And at the time, I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. I was a little bit annoyed, but I did it because I'm the oldest and that's what you do. And as I grew up, she made sacrifices in her career, and she balanced a career. She balanced being a family doctor in the city. She balanced a call schedule, and she gave me and my brothers every single opportunity that she could. She drove us to track. She drove us to swim lessons, to figure skating. And I recently was speaking with her, and she said, I was of the belief when I had you and became a mom that I could have it all. And while I had holes in all of my buckets, I do have it all. And so what Sharlene, you said, we're lucky that when you step out and you have perspective, you can realize that you have it all. And as a new mom, I'm so blessed to be a new mom. I'm so blessed to have a 4-month-old, and I want to give him the world. I want to give him every single opportunity I had, and then some that I didn't have. But it does mean that I have to change my narrative, and it means that I have to change my priorities and how I balance time. So that's something that I really am looking at, is how can I schedule my time allotments into 15, 45, 60-minute slots? How can I reduce wasted time in my life so that I can make the most time for my family and the most time for my son and watch him grow and develop, as well as for the actual problems? I think we as women have to be selfish at times with our time, because that is our scarcest resource at the end of the day.
So lots of discussions about having it all. I love the perspectives that are coming from ages and stages of business and juggling families, and I think that's what's really important, is that we all are at a different place right now. Our support systems are all very different, right? And so it's kind of like COVID, you know, we're all going through it, but some people have a life raft. Some people have a dinghy. Some people have a speedboat. Some people have a yacht. And it's kind of like the support system too, right? And so, you know, Rose, how would you say that, how important is it to have a support system to your success?
Tremendously important. My success has been attributed to pretty much anybody who's touched my life. I have not done it at all. all by myself. I have done it in conjunction with many. And I think to recognize that is really critical, because anybody who says that they've been a successful leader or they've accomplished whatever achievement, they might have an idea, but they typically don't just do it all. And so really it's about the many people who encourage you along the way. So, we've had mentions about fathers. Well, I had a great mom and dad. They emigrated to Canada. They didn't speak English at home because they were very adamant about having that formal first language at home, but they encouraged me to be the best me I could be. And they encouraged me to be honest and to be hardworking. And so that was the foundation. But then there was all these other people along the way who would say, well, Rose, what about this? Do you want to try this? Or I think you can do this. And if I would say, oh, no, I don't think so, because I was questioning my capabilities, they kind of just push me along. And so that was at the early stages. And then as I walked through different doors, I would have opportunities. And unfortunately, I can't be silent when I see something as an opportunity to be changed. So I would just speak my mind and I would speak my voice. And I would have men, predominantly because I was in male-dominated industries most of my career, I would have men that would embrace that thought, that opportunity, and they'd say, okay, Rose, go ahead, go try it. And so I built my career based on trying things because my gut feel plus some research would allow things to manifest themselves. And I had people who believed in me. And when you have people who believe in you and sponsor you and mentor you and coach you, the game does change, because it goes from you doing it alone to having these people who are your angels on your shoulder saying, hey, by the way, you might want to phrase it this way. Or you're in one of these meetings and your deer's in the headlight and you're thinking, what do I do? And then you make a quick phone call and say, hey, by the way, I have this opportunity. What would you do? And then they give you some sage advice. So it's listening, but there's been many people across my career. I have one gentleman, his name is Rob Hatton, who was one of my first friends in my professional career, and he's still a friend of mine today. He's been a mentor, he's been a coach, he's been a friend, he's been an ally. I had Bob Gillespie at GE, who was the CEO, who just said, Rose, don't get me into trouble, do your job well, and just don't let me get in the way. And I've had my husband currently, Eddie, he's phenomenal, and he's a supporter, and he said, you know what, sweetie, whatever you want to do, you do it, and I'm going to be behind you, and if you need to fall backwards, I'm going to push you forward. And I have a 27-year-old son who is probably my greatest supporter and doesn't think I can't do anything. And so when I look at a variety of different facets of my life, I've always had somebody there to give me feedback, honest feedback, encouragement, support. And as it pertains to boards, I sit on a mastermind group, and it's different peers from different industries, and we talk about board work, and we talk about how can we make things better, or how can we challenge current dogma. And so having all those different tools in your toolkit really help tremendously.
Beautiful. And I think there's a lot of intentional, when we manifest those support networks, they don't just come to us. I think that we actually have to be very intentional and very clear and specific about what support we need, and then just let that manifest. But you have to be intentional.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Charlene, how about yourself?
Yes, I have a lot of support for sure. I mean, even just, my family, of course, my husband, who has always supported me 100% no matter what. Good days, bad days, going broke, making money, it doesn't seem to matter. He's always right there, and he's quite funny. So, when I get very stressed out, he makes me, like belly laugh. And then I find that pretty much will carry me through everything. I know that my sons are all very supportive too, of course, but I also have such a fantastic network of friends and coaches and groups I belong to that are, they would do anything for me. I have, friends who will pop in and help me do interviews if I have to, or whatever, just because they know I need help. And I have no problem contacting my friends and saying, well, if you want to help, are you sure you want to help? If you're truthful about it, I'm willing to use your help. And they just will, jump over hoops to help me out. So I think, it's not just one part of my life, I think, that's supportive. It's the multifaceted groups that I have, that different types of friends and different ages of friends, and then the family as well. But I couldn't do it without them. I couldn't do it without them, and my team too. I have one of my team members has been with me for 20 years. I don't know how she's put up with that long, but she has, and I know that I could not do it without all of them, because they manage so much every day for me, and so I'm very appreciative of that too. So all different kinds of people and all different circles.
So you said something really important, Sharlene, which I want to address, and it's like you asked for help. And I know that is one of the biggest barriers that we actually, because it's like kind of into our house, we may not have all the answers right now, right? That's the hugest thing, is we don't maybe have all the answers. So, and you're like, yeah, I'm asking for help. Like at what point do you just like 1,000% in and say, I need help? Like, is it really easy for you now, or did you actually have to get to a stage where you're like, yeah, I just need help, just because there was no other option? How did you get to that? Because that's a big barrier for most women.
Yeah. And I think, the very first time I asked for help was many, many years ago, but it was that, it was going to be we were either going to survive or we weren't. And it was one of the many, many times that I thought, I need to quit and give this up. It is going to be too difficult, or I'm going to ask for help and I'm going to keep going. And I asked a friend for help, and she said, yeah, of course. And then it became easier. Now I usually preface with, are you crazy? Are you sure you want to help? This is nuts. And then they say, yes. And then it's really funny. And it's in all areas. Sometimes it's, I need help to get up and go for a walk. And sometimes it's, I need help, with something specific at work. And sometimes it's, I need to talk this through. Can you help me just work this out? And they do. And I think it's a kind gesture to the person that you're asking. I know that sounds funny, but I think people in general love to be able to offer some help in some way. Mm-hmm. And even if it is something small, if they can help, especially now, if they can and you ask, I think that's a beautiful thing. So I think if you can get over yourself and say, can you help? People will jump for joy to help.
Beautiful. And so, Kalia, I'm going to, as a single mom, asking for help, you probably had was it easy for you to ask for help, or were you trying to do it all by yourself?
Definitely never tried to do that one on my own. So I became a single mom about 3 days after I had my son, my oldest. And I was just incredibly lucky to have the parents that I had. I was able to move in with my mom and dad. And actually the first 3 nights of my little one being at home, my dad slept with him, just put him on his chest, and that was his baby, and that was it. He was just like, oh. And just to give me sleep. And they were just, I don't, that's that phrasing, like, if you want to go far or fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. My parents definitely taught me a lot around like getting support ever since I was really little. My dad actually started mentoring me for business when I was, strangely enough, like 3. He started learning about business. He started talking to me about it. And all the way through till when he sold his first concierge service and became a public speaker, he started bringing me to his mentorship sessions and teaching classes with gentlemen like Jim Rohn. So I got to learn all about like this business. And then I got to start my first one. My dad helped me start my first business at 13, went into business together when I was 18. And then he started sending me out to get training from all kinds of incredible mentors like George Ross, who used to be right hand to Donald Trump. Got to learn a bit from Eric Trump, Jay Abrams, Nito Cobain. So mentorship from men has always been really incredible. Of course, strongest is my father. And then first time I got to see a woman mentor, it was Suzanne West, and she became a dear friend, a very incredible mentor to me. And they all, if I had questions, if I needed help, I found that mentorship, and there was a lot of support around that. So I had huge support for my children at home, with my family, and of course my friends as well. And yeah, today I'm not scared to ask for help. I have incredible support from the people that I like to say I work with them. The people I work with, absolutely incredible. I have a fantastic man at home who supports everything I do. My children are absolutely huge supporters on top of my parents. So I definitely appreciate the support, but definitely could not have done any of this on my own.
What I love about your story, number one, is how your support her, that male ally and that champion is really strong. And we fought it for so long, I think, right? And now we're starting to talk about the importance of our male allies, and that women and men are such a united front, right? And how important it is. And so, you talk about your father, how he was the one that was sort of there with your son when he was so young, but also when you were 3, mentoring you in business, and how much a part of, your life was really driven by your father, your support her, which is incredibly important. So I love that we're talking about this right now. Super, super powerful. So, by the way, we both know George Ross. He's a rock star, by the way. Super powerful. Yes, we'll have another conversation about that. Kendra, new mom to a boy. You're raising to support her.
I am. I laugh because I only have ever had brothers. I have an amazing dad. I have a great partner and a son. My life has been surrounded by men since a young age, and luckily my dad has been teaching me the importance of business and politics since I can remember. I remember one of my first times trick-or-treating, he taught me about how taxation laws, because the government takes 50% of your profit. So he was going to take 50% of my candy, but he was going to let me choose which candy I wanted since he was nice. But the government doesn't really care if you like $1 more than the other dollar. And I remember when Kim Campbell became Prime Minister of Canada, he took the picture and he put it up in our house, and he just said, Kendra, I want you to know women can achieve anything and be anything you put your mind to. And that was my mantra growing up as a kid. It wasn't that I was a woman and I had to be treated differently. It was that I could do what I wanted to do, period. So I'm very fortunate with that. And I certainly, working in my dad's company, I've had to work for where I am, and I've had to work for being treated equally. But it's not because I'm a girl. It's because I have a last name that has some weight behind it. And I think that one of the things my dad has always taught me, and has complained about some of his other female managers in the past, was as women, when we get throwing balls, we catch them until we can't hold on to them anymore, and then they drop. We don't pass the ball on. We don't give it to someone else. We're afraid that if we don't hold on to all the balls and do our best, we're going to be seen as imposters and undeserving as our role. So one thing I've really had to learn is when I catch the hot potato, pass it on, give it to somebody else, encourage my team members to grow in their roles. Because if I'm hoarding all of the balls and all of the tasks, I'm not going to grow in my position, and I'm not going to grow my team beneath me.
Beautiful. And it's just like, once you reach that area of leadership, it's like send the elevator down and let others rise, right? Like, let's go pick some more ladies up and send them to the top, right? Like, we have to have that circle of reciprocity.
Exactly. And the more we send them down, the bigger we grow our pie, the bigger we show the world exactly what we're capable, the more opportunities open. It's not me versus Rose, me versus Monica. It's us working together to create something beautiful.
That's powerful. And I love your dad's trick or treat about teaching you about the taxes. That's pretty smart, I have to say. I love the fact that he said, pick your favorites first. I would actually love to have a panel where we have our support hers part of the conversation, right? I think that would be super powerful as well. Now, we did touch on a little bit about the imposter syndrome. And so maybe, Kendra, before we move off of this area, I'm going to dive into that second part of the question, is because that is something that women struggle with, right? Moving and scaling to that next level, taking that board role, scaling your business, reaching out into those areas, you know, that are uncharted, right? Because you're finding solutions or you're building business around them. So how do you overcome, you know, imposter syndrome? I'm just going to say, I think everybody's first, have you experienced it, and how do you overcome it?
Who goes first?
I'll start with you, Kendra, and then we're going to go around.
I think, yes, I think every woman has had imposter syndrome. Every woman has doubted herself, has been the girl at the school dance who was afraid to ask a boy to dance or worried that they wouldn't get asked to dance. I think we all have this innate insecurity, and that we're worried that someone will notice the lipstick on our teeth or the zit on our chin, and we're our own hardest critics. And I think that only holds us back because we think that somebody else is better, and there's only one spot for women in the boardroom. There's only one spot for women on the executive team, which is just a farce we've invented to hold ourselves back. Of course, I've faced imposter syndrome. I felt it today when I was showing up for the book launch. I felt it today when I was looking at the book and seeing myself with all these other women who've achieved so much. I was like, oh wow, what have I done? But that's about us. It's not real. It's a fiction of our imagination that we use to hold ourselves back. And I think the sooner we realize that it's our ego creating stumbling blocks and putting them in front of us, the sooner we can say, hey, yeah, I've got my insecurities, I've got my flaws, but I'm here, I want to learn, let me dive in, get messy, and grow with this, because at the end of the day, the guys are doing the same. They don't know what they're doing, they're just learning on the fly.
I absolutely love it. So I'm going to show the book for those that are watching. So the book is 100 women. I mean, from 12 to 100. There is a lot of women in this book with incredible stories, and yours is one of them. Yours is one of them, Sharlene, Colea, Rose. I mean, you know, we each bring something so valuable to the conversation, and I think that if we can talk about that, then the other women that are, you know, kind of feeling all those doubts, going, I can't believe she feels that way because I look up to her, right? So the more that we can have these conversations, the more that we can help others rise. So thank you so much for being so authentic about that. Rose, how about yourself?
Oh, at every juncture of the road, right? I mean, whether it is your first date with who ends up being your partner for the rest of your life, or whether it's, you know, you've given birth to your child. I have a son too, and they put your child in front of you, and then, you know, the journey begins, and then you figure out that you can't breastfeed very well. I mean, you know, it's imposter syndrome at many junctures, but you have to walk through the door. And I think what I've learned is that, you know, the support hers is one part of it, but the supporters, which are female supporters, are as equally as important. And so oftentimes when I have a little bit of self-doubt, I have my dearest best friend, her name is Teresa, and I'll phone her up, or we'll FaceTime or what have you. And I'll be like, Tree, I'm experiencing this. And then she'll just say, Rose, now why are you doing that? Or why do you feel that way? And it's just, unpacking the feelings or the emotions. And, you know, whether it's being on a new board or whether it's your first time you're in the C-suite or you're addressing, you know, a crowd that's going to be, you know, memorialized forevermore alongside with 4 other remarkable women, there's always doubt. And I think the thing is, if we recognize that there's people around us that can be that safety net, that's one facet of it. I think the other one is if you know the risk that you're taking, take it. Because as Kendra so well mentioned, men take the risks too. But men oftentimes will say 60% effectiveness or capabilities or experience is enough. Whereas women, we feel 80, 90%, or maybe I have to have 100%. And that's just a crock of crap. So we just need to know that wherever we're going to go, we're not going to be perfect. Everything's going to be a new circumstance. We may have experience that's portable, that's transferable, but we're not going to know the people, or it might be a different industry. But again, there's portable experiences. And so we have to give ourselves the grace to be able to learn, to be able to adapt, to be able to transfer that knowledge and to create those relationships. And I think we have to be less harsh on ourselves and, you know, recognize that part of the journey of growth is really one step at a time.
Beautiful. It's like eating the elephant one bite at a time, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's just like this massive thing, right? So thank you so much for sharing. Sharlene, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think too, you know, we get, you know, sometimes we get silenced or people try to, you know, speak over us. And it's easy to try to, you know, actually retreat and not speak back up or make sure that we're heard. And as you know, it's not necessarily always a male female thing for sure, but people who try to talk over you or silence you in some way contribute to the imposter syndrome, I think, because it's hard to then try to get your confidence back and step into yourself again when that happens. But I think we are getting, you know, we are all getting better about dealing with that because we are talking about it with each other. I think that's really important, but it's difficult to, you know, I did a speech once and I was kind of heckled. I was heckled. I was going to say booed, but I was really heckled. And it was difficult to then ever have do another speech again. And I don't know if those people, you know, knew what they were doing, but they just, you know, beat my confidence down for sure. And it took me a while to actually be back to, hey, yes, I can do this again. I will do something different. I will learn from it and, you know, just step into who I am and be who I am. And if they try to heckle or step over top or whatever it might be or speak over, that is a problem with those people. Actually, it's not a problem with me. It's a problem with them. And I just need to keep my own confidence up to be authentic with myself. And I think if we can help to teach that to the younger women who I watch going through the same thing, you know, I think that's really important too, to say, you know, this isn't your issue. You be okay with you. It doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing. You just be okay with you. That will help the generations to follow us.
Man, I would have loved to be in that room. I'm like, what are you talking about here? Like, I would have been having your back, Sharlene, because I got to tell you, I have been fangirling you for years, as you know, like, you know, like, I look at, there's so many amazing female leaders, and I'm like shocked that I hear things like that. Like, I'm literally shocked, and I'm telling you that I think that we should champion for the other women when we see stuff like that happen, instead of say, that is not okay, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I
think we all need to do that. We all need to step up and say, you know, this is a problem with you. Don't do that to her. Or, you know, this doesn't build confidence in people who are trying to do things, good things. And so I think we just all need to stick together with that.
Absolutely. And then there's feedback, which can be constructive, but something that's tearing somebody down is a completely different animal. So thank you for sharing that, because
may I just interject for a second?
Yes.
So I was hosting an event. We have an event called Slush Cup, which is a phenomenal end of season party that we're all looking forward to hosting again once COVID goes away, if we're allowed to have a big event again. And while I was hosting, a heckler came and goes, "Are you Kendra Scarfield?" And I go, yes, I am. "You suck at your job." And he said some things, and I felt my whole self shatter in that instant. And one of the guys standing right watching the event goes, "I think you're pretty good at your job." And it was just his kindness in that moment that gave me the strength to continue going on through it, and to realize that there are always going to be people that hate you, that don't like you, that want you to fail. But there's more people that are kind and just want to be there to support someone, whether it's male, female, whether they know you or not. And I think we have to trust the kindness of strangers as well as the kindness of our peers.
Well said. Again, next time I'm like girl power. Like, I can't see anybody doing that anymore. Like, I think the more that we talk about that and we don't make it okay, and sometimes some people need to be corrected. So I love the fact that somebody said, "You know what, I think you're pretty darn good," right? And you're exceptional, by the way. Like, again, I have so much, how would you say, respect for women in leadership roles, right? Because it just takes a lot of courage to pave those roads less traveled. Colia, we didn't want to miss you in there, and so I'll let you jump in.
Well, I would definitely say suffered a fair bit with imposter syndrome, and I think a lot of it came from like struggles with mental health. Like, since I was kind of little, I remember I had a teacher telling me, "You're stupid, you're not going to amount to anything." Or I get racist comments at school, like, "You stupid little N-word, B-word." Or I end up, when I was in combustion, very male-dominated space, very, very heavily trying to get into oil and gas, and I'd walk into a room and I would hear, "I'll take a coffee and 2 sugars." And it's like, "Would you like me to get your assistant?" Or I'd have men ask things like, "Oh, are you the company perk?" And it's, or I'd have men going, Oh, do you understand burners? This isn't for your home, honey. This isn't a furnace. Like, are you in the right spot? And you're, and you're sitting there, and it's like, you end up with all these experiences. You have men say, "Oh, well, can I invest in you? And is there a perk to go with it?" And you're like, so you just, you have this sense, and it's like, you're young, I'm part Native and part Black, and it's like, you're a minority, and there's all these different experiences that you have that make you feel like, do I deserve to be here? And the thing that supported me the most to get to a place of that inner power to say, yeah, I do deserve to be here, was actually the work of a woman named Suze Casey. And she does what's called belief repatterning. And it was a form of like cognitive behavioral therapy. So when I'd experienced honestly anything like imposter syndrome, like, am I a good mom? Am I good in business? Like, can I make it through all of these different like negative experiences? And that's just what they are, it's just experiences. But she would help me repattern my mindset around it. It's just like, I am confident, I am capable, I am deserving. It's just like, I breathe air, therefore I am deserving of love. I am deserving of, being in the position that I'm in. And after doing like pretty much weekly sessions with her for the last 12, 13 years, I do have that confidence. Like when I see my face on that book, I'm like, yeah, I absolutely deserve to be there, because I have been working my backside off, since I was a young girl, and I've been making it through male dominated spaces, and I'm trailblazing for other women. And it's just like, and I do talk a lot about mental health. I have struggled to points where I thought, commit me, put me on meds. I am feeling broken on the inside. Like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm so overwhelmed. And honestly, getting that support for your mental health, if you do need it, like some, and I applaud the women who can go through that with that internal fortitude without getting it. But, if you do have that syndrome and you don't feel like you belong and you do struggle, it's like being able to get those, supportive elements through mental health work and therapy can help you take that leap to really, know with that internal strength that you are worthy, because every woman is. Doesn't matter what your background or your experience. I don't care what it is. You're absolutely worthy. And everybody, like one day your success story will be someone else's survival guide, so just knowing that your story will impact someone someday too.
Beautiful. And this really just goes right into our next question, worth. Of course, women seen, heard, valued. So, every woman has a story. Each and every one of you has this amazing story. So why is it so important that women know their value and their worth? How to negotiate and advocate for themselves, Rose?
It's huge. First of all, every human being on this earth deserves their place. No one is given a better birthright than someone else, in my humble opinion. And so we all deserve to shine. We all deserve to have whatever gifts or blessings we've been given as part of our genetics, to be able to take that, harness it, and to be the best people that we can be. So I think that is the most important. If you look at us as females, we have been marginalized. And I have been on the gender diversity track for 35 years. And I have been in male-dominated environments most of my career. And I am typically the one and only at wherever I am. And I'm looking to change that. But I think we need to share our stories. We need to show that in imperfection and in vulnerability, there is truth, and there is the light on the path to allow others to come along and to also gain that courage to be able to take risks and to be able to be authentic. So I think it's really, really critical to be able to share our stories, to share our imperfections, to share our failures, because failures are not this great abyss that you fall into. They're just that stepping stone to something better, because with failure, you learn this answer is not the one for me. And so hearing stories, sharing stories, putting everyone in the spotlight and sharing that, I think gives the world hope that someone else can do it too. And Kalea said it very well, that that is someone's life raft, I believe it was, or emergency parachute. I can't remember the words appropriately, but it, pardon?
Survival guide.
Survival guide. So when you look at it, we have a role, and with the pandemic, women have had to make really large choices often of exiting the workplace in order to be able to take care of their families, whether it's their children or whether it's ailing parents or what have you. And so we have actually, the statistics are that we have taken at least a generation of a step back in terms of our economic status in the world, which if you look at it, that's pretty darn scary. So we have to share. We have to call out the bullies who heckle. We have to be able to support one another. We have to be seen. We have to be heard, and we have to put a spotlight in it. And to me, it's non-negotiable, and we each have a role in that.
Beautiful. Thank you. Sharlene.
Yeah, I think we need to, in order to advocate, I think, for other women, we need to listen. I think we're good listeners anyway. Women are. We're relationship builders. But I do think we need to listen to the other women that are facing things or trying to tell us something, and then, draw on experiences and help to build their confidence. I think that's kind of part of our roles now. I think that we need to be fair in what we pay our women. I think we need to promote them at an equal pace, at least. And I think, sometimes it's a little bit difficult because, maybe we have to consider budgets and whatnot. But I mean, we have to be very, very fair with the women. And I think, hopefully it's getting a little bit better, but I think we still have an uphill battle. And I think we need to speak up about those kinds of things too, to make sure that it's fair for everyone. I have a mostly female population internally. I would say 70% of my internal team are female and 30% are male. And I'm very cognizant of it. I'm very, very careful that they're at, equal pay for equal work. And then externally, on our temp side, we have a lot of people, and a lot of times I can't control that, but I do try to watch for it. I try to make sure that our employers are also trying to offer diversity and fairness and equality. And sometimes I can't do anything about it, and sometimes I can. So whenever I can speak up, I do. And I just try to inspire others at the same time and help to teach what that looks like in today's world.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sharlene. Kolea?
To me, I think a big one for me in terms of inspiring young women or helping them break that glass ceiling. And there is a lot of work to do, and as much as I absolutely appreciate all the incredible male support I've had, the first time I got to see a woman that, maybe didn't share my skin tone, but it was a woman in a position of leadership, in a position that was extremely male dominated. And I was able to see she could do it. Well, if she could do it, then I could do it. And I was so inspired. I watched, and again, sorry, Suzanne West, but again, I got to watch her speak, and it was like, I'm going to work with you. I don't know how, but I need to work with you. I had lady goosebumps all over me. I was like, oh my God, I was fangirling. And I got, again, to have that opportunity, I got invited to an event, an Elevate Aviation Gala, and I got to see Kendra Kincaid, which was another one of your winners. I got to see her speak and hearing her story, and again, just goosebumps all over my body. And I was like, I got to work with you, because it was so powerful and so inspiring to see someone who had had their struggles, who had overcome so much adversity and was using a platform, and it wasn't for self-interest and self-profit, it was using it to let's encourage as many women as we can, to better their circumstances, to shift into areas that are more male dominated. Because as women, to Rose's point earlier, it's we feel like if we're not checking all the boxes, we're not applying, or we're intimidated because it's so male dominated. So honestly, Monica, the work that you do to showcase women all across the country, are the inspiring stories, sharing the stories, showing all women across Canada, that it's there's so many people out there who are doing it. You can too. To me, it's a massive step on top of encouraging and inspiring your friends around you and your coworkers and other women that you see. But the more I see people that look like me, the more inspired and encouraged I am. And I love being involved in organizations like Elevate. So I remember how a little girl came up to me once after she saw my burner work, and she's like, "You're like a woman Elon Musk," and it was seeing you could do it too. That's it. As a young girl, it's I want to get in science. It's yes, and I was so excited by that, because it's yeah, you can absolutely be in this space. And every other space, so just, the work that you do really makes a huge impact, I think, especially to that next generation that we're trying to encourage to, you don't just have to be in the home. You don't just have to be in more female-led spaces, right? Breaking the glass ceiling is showing women in male-dominated spaces kicking ass too. And that's a lot of what the work I see that you do. So I'm really grateful to be a part of it. And and all of you incredible women that are doing it as well. It's I'm honored to be, alongside everyone that's doing it too. I think that, we're absolutely breaking barriers. We have further to go, but we're further along in this generation than any other time in human history. So, proud to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm getting lots, my bucket's super full, super full. And, it brings me, I'm so proud to, because we don't know the impact that we're making in the room or the people that are listening, because I'm so focused on you guys, but this is going out to the world, right? These conversations that we have or going out, we don't get stage fright here because it's just a close little episode that we're taping. But this message and your knowledge that we're sharing is going to go out to the world so that somebody else, to your point, Kalia, you know, that young girl is going to go, she did it, and she did it, and she did it, and she did it. Oh my God, not just one person, 5, 10, 100 women are doing it, right? And so that strength in numbers is so, so important. So I'm just really proud to have you all on that journey with us, because we do need to break it. I think it's more like a brick ceiling than a glass ceiling, to be honest. And it's really sad that it's still there. It's so, so time. And so I'm really excited because we have the young women in our network now. You know, like, I never had those role models when I was growing up, those female role models, you know, and access to them. And that, I think, is going to be game changing really for how we can actually achieve that. So thank you for that, Kalia. It really means a lot. Kendra.
As Rose so eloquently said, I don't believe anybody is born worth more or less than anybody else. We all need to realize that we each bring something unique to the table, and we are each worth our seat and our time. I grew up very privileged, and I am grateful for my privilege. My one grandma was one of 5 women in her med school class, and she became one of the first female doctors in Alberta. And my other grandma, my grandfather was instrumental in bringing the Flames to Calgary, and he was one of the original owners. And unfortunately, he passed away in 1985 before I was born, and my grandmother at the time took his role on the executive chair with the Flames and took his spot in the ownership group of the Flames, and actually is one of the only women, the only Canadian woman on the Stanley Cup, and she worked with them and she ran aspects of his business. And I'm so blessed that I had those women in my life, because for me, it was never a question that I was worth less than my brothers or my male cousins. It was that I was worth as much, and shame on anyone who thought else. And I think every woman deserves that. Every little girl deserves to know that she can dream of being a princess, but she can also dream of being CEO. She can dream about being a surgeon. The sky's the limit. And if any girls out there want someone to talk to, my door is always open. I love to be a supporter for somebody else, because I had that. But we as women need to change our mindset and believe that the air we breathe is as valuable. Our time is as valuable. That's something I'm currently working on. Is I tend to underestimate time, and I'm almost afraid to take up as much time, so I'll undersell it. And my time's worth just as much as everybody else's, as is my contributions, as is somebody who grew up differently, somebody who doesn't have a formal education. We all are deserving to share our ideas and our beliefs, and we just need to find people that will hear us. And if we don't, we have to fight for it.
Yes, let's go fight for it, and in a kind way, right? For good.
In a kind way.
In a kind way, of course. It's always
I'm
for
not
good.
saying go storm the Capitol. Just say it and say it and say it. Say it until you're heard.
Well, and it's I think women of inspiration fight for what they believe in, right? And so
Exactly.
It's like there's a good fight out there to fight, right? If it's something that is going to help serve others, there is no harm in that at all. The harm is when you don't fight for that or speak up or advocate for yourself or for another woman.
Every time you don't advocate, you hold somebody else back.
And I truly do believe that as well, but we need to consciously think about those things. Are our actions in alignment with our values? Consistency with that alignment and values is so important, right? So that little person on your shoulder reminding you, you know, even it might be a harder decision, but I've got to tell you, like, I feel so blessed. I've had conversations with each of you, and I am like, you ladies lead by example always, like literally. So, you know, I think that we can draw on our support networks and those women that we look up to when we're faced with those decisions. What would Sharlene do in this situation? What would Rose do in this situation? What would Kendra do? What would Kalia do? You know, I think that's powerful. So anyways, I really appreciate your perspectives. I do want to wrap up our panel. By the way, thank you so much. We could talk for days, and perhaps this should turn into a summit, perhaps at the ski hill. But we always talk about, knowing your worth and your value, but it is really hard for most women to step into the spotlight. So I really think that's important to talk about. And so Rose, I'd love to have you share your experience about stepping into the spotlight.
I'm sort of a quasi-introvert extrovert, so big crowds intimidate me, and I'm also 5'2". So when I'm amongst many, sometimes it can be intimidating, and so stepping into the spotlight for me, sometimes it's a psychological thing where I have to mentally build myself up. But what I've learned is, especially when it's for something of magnitude, of change, of positive change, it's important to be able to share the thoughts, and it's important to step through the door and to share the story. And so yeah, sometimes the spotlight is not something that's comfortable for me, but I fake it till I make it, and I get up there anyway, because I feel that I've been given opportunities that perhaps others have not, and I want to show others that even though you might be absolutely terrified and may feel you're underqualified, if somebody's asked you for that, there's a purpose to it. So step through the door, take the spotlight, share the story, and hopefully it will be that emergency life raft, the emergency survival toolkit. It will be the parachute. It will be whatever that person needs, and hopefully it'll be something inspiring. And so I've changed my mindset from when I was younger to today, from saying, oh no, not needed, to yes, certainly, thank you very much.
Take that baton, ladies. Charlene, how about yourself?
I've been in the spotlight a lot. I would say, that when I first started, it wasn't very easy to do, especially since I think the first thing I ever did was the television segment. And I was very, very nervous, for sure. And I kind of wing it most of the time. But I have tried to, step out a little bit lately and let some of the younger people take the reins and do some, segments and speeches and that kind of thing. I still do them. Often I get asked, and so I'll still do it. But, one of the things too is that I wasn't really, through my career, wasn't super, proud of the fact that I was on in the spotlight all the time, and I would pick myself apart too. And now I embrace that. Now we share the videos from 25 years ago, or 20 or 15 or 10 or 5 or today. And we share them, and they inspire other people. And so often I get approached by women who say, wow, I loved your story. I loved your speech. I loved your, your segment. Thank you so much. You really inspired me. And for me, that really helps me to want to share more. And so that's why now we have our, video library and whatnot just available. And I don't care anymore if people see past episodes where I look clearly, 25 years younger, but they're inspired by that, and they still, like the information or what I see, my story or whatever. And so I'm happy to still share it. And I'm also happy to pass the reins to the people who want to try something new. So it's a fun journey.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I love the passing the torch, but I really do see value with leaders that you still need to keep very much in the spotlight so that others can learn from that. Like, it's so important to still, because I still feel the need that we need more female leaders in the spotlight. I don't think we'll ever run out of opportunities to do that, because that's what's going to help move us forward. So I love the opportunities that we're giving our other leaders, our support network, so they can come and share that light. But to women, I think it's like, you've got to hold that place, and it's so important. So thank you for shining the light on that. Colia.
I would say stepping into the spotlight, words of wisdom for that one, say yes. I got given opportunities, going back in a ways, but I was asked at one point by the Alberta government to be one of the only female speakers at the Middle East World Heavy Oil Congress, and I'd never spoken in person before. I was petrified. I was meeting with my therapist on it. It's like I got on a plane, was claustrophobic, and I went and I took the opportunity. And then, more speaking opportunities came up, and a lady saw me speak one day at an Edmonton Global event, and she's like, would you be our keynote at our AGM for this small town out in Alberta? And I was like, I'd love to. Never been a keynote, but scared again. But I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I was like shaking on stage. And the person who saw me keynote, she was leading the Women of Vision awards that happen in Alberta. And she gave me the award. She was like, your story was so inspirational. And it's like, so you kind of just never know. But if you're willing, like no matter how scared you are, if you're willing to say yes and step in, even if you feel like an imposter, whatever it is, more opportunities will come. And I know so many of the opportunities I get asked for speaking, all the awards I've won, everything that's gone on, is because people are aware of me. Because I'm out there, I'm saying yes to opportunities, and I'm taking them and inspiring other women to take them. So it's not easy, it's scary, but it also leads to absolutely incredible opportunities if you let it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And you're right. It opens up opportunities when you're in the spotlight, right? That's how, look at the great big graphics truck, right? They don't have your names on them, but they're like, that you're part of the book. And again, opportunities, visibility, women being seen, heard, and valued. There's so many great things that can happen from it. So thank you for sharing that, Kalia. Kendra, yourself.
There's nothing scary about the spotlight, is what I'd like to tell girls and women. I was thrust into the spotlight at a young age. My dad doesn't love being the center of attention or in the spotlight, and so when I was younger, I used to take the microphone from him at events, and I would talk. And I think it goes back to being that fearless 4-year-old, the girl who drops the weight in the deep end of the pool to get it, and you just turn the noise, you turn the distractions off and focus on what you're doing, and you believe in yourself. Everyone makes embarrassing moments. Everyone trips, falls, burps. The amount of time I've had leafy greens in my teeth when I've been in interviews, oh God, I'd be a very rich woman if I had $1 for every time. But I think we put too much pressure and we get in our heads, and that holds us back. People aren't thinking about the micro details or flaws or mistakes you make. They're thinking about, wow, she's doing a good job. Most people want other people to succeed, and the sooner we get out of our head and just accept where we are and know that sharing our story can be someone's survival guide, can be someone's inspiration for doing something great, the sooner we can raise other women up.
Beautiful. Well, I could go on forever. It's been an absolute pleasure to spend this, I think, almost hour with you on this panel today.
Yeah.
And, there's nothing greater than learning wisdom from other women, because that's how we learn as leaders. And I've spoken to you so many times before independently, ladies, and I always leave with my bucket full and learning even more, even though I've spoken to you before and heard you speak. There's always something more to learn, which is super, super powerful. And, when the world stopped with COVID-19, one thing that kept going was women. We didn't stop. Yep. And we're going to keep going. Mm-hmm. So thank you for being the leaders that you are and driving that change. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to moving those mountains and skiing on them too, Kendra.
Of course. And thank you for putting this together and bringing a place where we can help rise women up together.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. Thank you very much for inviting us, Monica. It was a great pleasure.
Well, there's more to do. We've got lots of work, ladies, and I'm happy that you're all part of this journey with us. We're going to make some change happen. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.